Hey everybody, my name is Walter Rowe. I'm a portrait photographer. I'm a Capture One affiliate. Welcome to my first live stream ever. My buddy Rob, thank you very much for joining us today and for getting me hooked up with how to do OBS. Hopefully this won't be a complete mess. I'll do my very best. Today we're going to talk about using the Dehaze tool in Capture One 21 for enhancing portraits. You can use positive dehaze to darken areas, which gives more definition, and you can use negative dehaze to lighten areas, which can hide certain kinds of blemishes and things like dark circles under the eyes. And we're going to use a portrait of my friend Rob as an example today. I appreciate him granting me permission to use his face for this, but let's see how this goes. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me, and my mouth and voice are synchronized with the video, and we'll just muddle through it. Please feel free to leave messages in the chat. I'll try and monitor the chat. I've got my iPad up here so I can see the chat window and the video taking place. Just know that there is some delay between what I'm saying here and when you actually see it. So if you type things in the chat, they're going to be referencing a little bit delayed things that I've done, but I will monitor the chat and try and cover things and go back and answer your questions. If you like my videos and this live stream goes okay, if you want to support my channel, I'd be grateful. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/WalterRowe. If you're new to Capture One and you're just doing the trial and you would like to make a purchase, I have an affiliate link in the comments or in the description of the video, and you can use that to buy Capture One, and I get a small commission. It's kind of like a pass-through for someone who sets up an affiliate link or an associate link at like the Amazon web store or something like that. Thanks again for joining me. I'm just having some challenges here now. My webcam has decided to go offline on me, so I apologize for that. Not sure why that is. It is getting a little frustrating, I gotta be honest. I've been playing with this. I'm using my Nikon Z7 for my webcam, and it looks like it's just decided to not function properly anymore as a webcam, and I don't know why. Maybe I need to disconnect and reconnect my capture card. Yep, let's see that. That might get us going again. Okay. All right, sorry about that. As my friend Rob says, wouldn't be a live stream without some technical difficulties. So let's see how this goes. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let's get right to the application, because in the application, you won't need to see me. All right, so I've turned off the webcam, and you should just see Capture One on the screen, and hopefully you can hear me. Let me know if you can't. And so here we have a portrait of my buddy Rob, as I said. And this was taken in the opening of like an agricultural building on a farm, like a where they store tractors, a tractor shed or something like that. Anyway, there was natural light coming in from the door. It was kind of dark behind him, but I had a flash on the camera, so this front-on flash gave a rather flat look. And if I disable this Dehaze darken layer, you can see how it's a bit flat looking here. If I zoom in a little bit, we can see, there's not much definition. There's not much shadowy areas to kind of give more definition. And if I turn this layer on, you can see how we now get more of that definition around the face. We get a little bit of shadow under the chin. We get some shadow across the bridge of the nose. under the nose and so forth. And hopefully, hopefully this shows through well in as it comes across the live stream here. So the question is, how did I achieve this? If I select the Dehaze Darken layer and I scroll down to the Dehaze tool, you can see on the left, let me just pull this up so we can see it as a floating tool here. You can see that I've done a +20 on Dehaze, and you can also see that the shadow tone says manual. So that means that I've manually selected a color with the color picker. If I go to color picker here, then it means that I've selected a color. And when you use positive dehaze, what you do is you darken. That's what happens in dehaze, right? If you're on a landscape portrait or a landscape photo, dehaze, hazy skies, they kind of look white or light colored, and they don't have much saturation to them. And so when you add a dehaze adjustment, it tries to find a tone that it wants to darken to kind of give more contrast and clarity. And in this case, we're trying to give more definition around the face, some shadow areas to kind of give more definition. So we have we have picked a color tone that matches the skin. So I pick a color that I want to get to, and so I pick a color that's in the skin tone range and hue, and then I can adjust the amount. You see, as I adjust the slider for dehaze, you're getting different effects on that color range. So it actually is producing what we want. And if I hold down the Option or Alt key and press reset and hold it, it's effectively showing you the dehaze tool where you have where you've turned off dehaze. And if I let it go, you see where dehaze has now been applied. So let's see here. So this shows the adjustment that I used for dehaze. Now, what you don't see here, let me put this back in the tool panel. What you don't see here is the mask that I've also applied. So in this layer, I've purposely controlled with a mask where I've added this adjustment. And all I've done is I've used the brush tool, and I've set an appropriate size brush. And typically for doing these types of enhancements, I set the flow of the brush to be really low. I set it to be like 5 or 10. And what this means is, as it adds the brush, it's very faintly adding it a little bit at a time. It's not adding 100% of that brush all at one time. It's adding it so it builds it up. It's like using paints on a canvas, where you're just kind of gently adding more and more and more, and you're just layering it up. And so you can see there's some dark red colors, areas where the mask is very heavy, and that is where the adjustment is applied the most. And then there's areas where it's very slight, like here under the eye, a little bit under the brim, just a little on the side of the head here, and those areas where the adjustment is applied less. The effect of the adjustment is less. So looks like Rob says, "Yep, you guys can hear me. Even when it says it's not working, it's actually working." So that's terrific. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks so much for confirming that. Okay, so let's imagine that we were starting over again. Let me disable this layer. Oh, let me just point out one more thing about this layer. I also have a negative brightness of about -8. So dehaze will take you kind of as far as you'd like to go, but I found that sometimes just adding a touch of minus brightness on top of that. So dehaze also adds saturation. So if you go too far with dehaze, you can get too much saturation. So then the skin doesn't look right. It looks oversaturated. So if you find the right amount of the skin tone darkening that you want, you can just enhance it a little bit more with negative brightness. So I'm going to disable this dehaze. I'm going to add a new adjustment layer. We'll call this Dehaze Darken 2. So this has no adjustments on it. And I'm going to go pick a color, and we'll just pick something in this range here. We know we want that to be a darker color. And then I'm going to move this up to about, we'll say minus 25, or we'll take it all the way to minus 30 even. And then we're going to go apply our brush. So I'm actually going to make this brush really soft. That's another thing I like to do when I'm adding on these adjustments like this. I like to make them really soft. So in the center of the brush, it'll be really concentrated, but as it gets out to the edges of the brush, it gets very, very faint. So now that I've got my brush selected, I've got my adjustment dialed in, I just want to start brushing this in. So let me go into 100% view here, and I'm just going to start brushing this in, and it's going to layer up and layer up. It's going to be really low at first. If I turn on the mask, you can see it's getting darker there. The mask is there, and if I turn off the layer and then turn it back on again, you can see that it's having some effect. And if I adjust the brightness down just a little bit, you can see it has just a little bit even more effect. So I turn the layer off, turn the layer on. So here, maybe I want to go and add a little definition over on this side of the nose. So just kind of paint that in. Maybe a little down here, a little shadow on this side of the nose. Just adds that in. And the reason I like using Dehaze for this is I really like the fact that Dehaze does include a little bit of saturation. And for me, when I've used curves or other tools for burning or darkening, they tend to not hold the colors the way I want them. And with Dehaze, because I have the color picker, I can actually guide Capture One to kind of the colors that I want to get to. So here you can see I'm just painting in. I'm just painting in around the edges here. And this is just building up a little bit over time. If I turn the mask on, you can see where I've applied the adjustment. Turn the mask off. If I disable this layer, you can see where there's no effect now. And when I turn the layer back on, there's effect. Let me zoom back out where we can see a little bit more. I'll just keep brushing in here. And this can actually even be useful for things like, oh, well, we have a little bit of a, well, we want to say, oh, well, maybe there's a little double chin look or something. We just want to darken that a little bit. Well, we can just kind of hide that nicely, and it just doesn't show through anymore. And so you've eliminated that. Maybe we want to enhance. So there's a little lip action going on there around the sides of the mouth, the downside of the far side of the door where it should be more shadow. We can just add a little more shadow. So let me make the brush a little bigger. We'll just paint some back up here. Maybe we'll put a little more shadow under the brim of the hat. So you can see I'm just brushing this in, and I'm just layering it up a little as it goes, a little at a time. And it's just adding that little more definition that I want. So if I go back out to the full zoom and I turn this layer off, you can see it's got that flat look to it. When I turn it on, you can see the kind of darken some areas, and so it just gives me a little bit more definition. Hopefully that's making a little bit of sense. I'm just going to type something in the chat here. You guys let me know if you're getting this, if you're seeing it, if you're hearing me. If you're not hearing me, let me know. I just want to make sure that you guys are seeing what I'm doing here. So let's go now to dehaze for lighten. And this is where we use negative dehaze. And in this scenario, we're going to, let me turn this layer off and you can see, let me use the layer mask first, and you'll see where there's some layers of some of the mask applied. You can see it's under the eyes. There's a little bit right here on the one cheek, and then here you see a little bit on the nose. And you'll notice that on this layer, this Dehaze Lighten, there's the little sunburst icon, and that icon. Let me see if I can zoom into the window here. You can see this over here. See this little icon. So let me zoom back out here. One of those nice features of macOS, you can do that. So in this layer we have Dehaze Lighten, but what we've done is we've used a negative dehaze. Let me pull again out the dehaze tool here. Again, I've used the color picker. I've selected the color hue that I really care about respecting, and notice that I've used negative -100 on the dehaze. So negative dehaze actually lightens. Okay, so let me turn off the layer mask. Oops. So we turn the layer mask off. Let's do an Alt or Opt and reset, and you can see that you now have the little darkening under the eyes. You can see what's happening on the nose. There's a little something happening here on the nose. Let me do this again where we're zoomed in a little bit. You can see, and if I go in all the way to 200, it's really visible what's happening here on the nose. So my apologies to you, Rob, but you had a good example portrait. So you can see right here on the nose, there's these little blood vessels. If I just reset that, and you can see there are these little blood vessels that are just under the surface of the skin. And when I go to -100 on dehaze, ooh, look at there. That's definitely, oh, I see what I did. I reset it. So let me do a color picker, and let me pick a color, and that's it. There we go. Took care of it. So you can see that that by using the negative dehaze with a chosen color for to kind of guide it, it's actually eliminated these. And the real cleverness of this is applying the luminosity mask. So if I go to the Luma range, you can see here in my luminosity mask for this layer that I've only selected the dark colors. So you'll see on this mask, I have, when I turn the mask on, it's only affecting dark tones. It's not affecting the lighter skin tones. So what I'm doing is I'm finding these dark tones in the image, but only in the areas where I've painted a mask, and I am lightening them, but I'm lightening them in a way that respects the color picker hue that I have picked in the dehaze tool. So this makes for really, in my opinion, a really clever use of dehaze for things like hiding circles under the eyes, eliminating like these little blood vessels. You know, I don't have to go paint those in. If I go to Luma range and I remove this luminosity mask and I turn on the layer mask, you can see that there is, now that's interesting. It's actually behaving like there's luminosity mask turned on. That might be a bug in Capture One. I might have to report that. Let's do this. Let us turn off that layer. Let us create a new adjustment layer, an empty layer. We'll call this Dehaze Lighten 2. And in this case, we're going to go to 100%. I'm just going to lightly brush in here the area that I want to affect. I'll just lightly, gently brush over here. Calculating the mask. Gently brush over here a little bit. And you're going to see that I'm not painting much of a mask in here at all. And now let's go and do my selective color for dehaze. We'll pick something relatively light. Then we're going to go to minus 100. So it's kind of flattening and taking some of the texture out of the nose right here. If we zoom in, it's kind of flat, and I'm not really happy with that. If I go to luminosity and I set the range to a pretty dark area, let me turn the display on for luminosity, then I can control what actually gets affected tonal wise. So what I've done is I've controlled the hue with the Dehaze tool, color picker, and I've controlled the tone with the luma range on the mask of the layer. So this really confines the effect that I'm applying to this this adjustment, and that's really the beauty of using this technique. If I now disable the mask, you can see now I've actually recovered some of the texture that's in here that was in there before, because I've only impacted just those tones that I care to impact. And I can always just brush in a little more if the mask just isn't heavy enough. I can just brush in a little more, and it will go right in there, and it'll get exactly what we want. So I get these areas. So just get that. So I mean, I'm not going to go every little detail here, but I think it really illustrates the point that I can get in pretty tight, and I can control these things and retain texture, which is something that you often lose when you do things like frequency separation. You tend to lose texture even though you have a separate layer for texture and for color. But what I really like about this is I really get that control, and I'm applying all of this at the raw file. I think this is really a very unusual and unorthodox use of dehaze, both positive dehaze for adding definition and negative dehaze for removing blemishes and dark circles under the eyes and things like that. Let's see, let's just do a little more up here. We'll just put a little bit there to kind of get some of that out. You can just see that it's just removing that darkness a little bit under the eye. So, you know, I'm not sure that's exactly perfect now, but you get the idea. This really is a neat kind of way to use this. So I'm curious, provide some comments here in the chat and kind of give me an idea. What is it? What do you think of this? Try and add myself back to the view here. So I'm curious what you guys think of this. If you know. Hopefully this is something kind of clever. What I really think is beautiful about this is this keeps your adjustments as close to the raw source as possible. And for me, one of my real pet peeves is having to go into a RGB pixel editor like Photoshop or Affinity Photo, because I've now baked in all of my adjustments into an RGB file. I'm taking them into another tool. I'm doing more enhancements, and now I have to store that RGB file. And if I ever want to make adjustments to that raw file again, I have to do that all over. And I really despise that. It is my mission in life when I'm doing photo management and photo editing to put as much work right as close to the raw file as possible. I really don't like going into pixel editors unless I really have to. Now there's some little detail editing. Sometimes you have a really bad case of complexion that you need to work on. Or if you were doing like, high fashion, high glamour, and they really want that just, plasticky, porcelain look. That that's not my style. That's not how I do portraits. But that is, there are people that really like that look. When you look at the cover of Vogue or Cosmo or one of these high-end magazines, that's what they go for, and that's fine. That's their market. That they like that. That's not what I go for. That's not what I do. I'm mostly doing family portraits, individual portraits for people I know, or local business owners, small business owners here in the community that I'm trying to help support. So, that's what I'm really trying to get to. And so for me, it also just minimizes extra storage on disk, right? If I take a 47 megapixel RAW file out of my Nikon Z7, I'm going to turn that into a 150 plus megabyte RGB file when I go into a pixel editor. And if I have to do that for 10 or 15 files, there's a gig of data right there just for, one session. You do that for lots and lots of sessions, you start consuming a lot of extra disk space. So for me, keeping it right close to the RAW file, also having it all right there in my digital asset management just makes it so much easier. If you guys have any questions, I see people are appreciating this, and I'm really grateful for that feedback. I thank you so much for joining me here. I know it looks like there's only about 7 people here, and that's fine. This is my first one, and maybe this will grow over time. Would love to hear what other topics you'd like to see demonstrated or you'd like to talk about. This doesn't have to be always about going into Capture One and illustrating something from my perspective. If you have a trouble image, maybe that you're trying to figure out how to edit, let me know, and maybe we can figure out a way for you to get me your RAW file, and we can pull it into Capture One on one of our live streams and kind of collectively walk through how we might edit that image, and that would be great. Yeah, Rob, I just saw your comment. You like that you can do color and luminosity at the same time. I really find that really valuable. Even on the Dehaze darken, you could do a luminosity mask if you wanted, where you actually restrict it to lighter tones, so that you're not darkening tones that are already in a certain color palette. So for example, if we look at adjusting this luminosity range, and we turn on the mask, and we look at what happens in the chin down here, we can just kind of move this gradually darker and darker and control what's actually being affected. And even with luminosity, you actually have this fall off control, which just softens the edges even that much more. So it doesn't have to be a hard edge, specifically from this value to that value. The fall off in the luminosity mask is really spectacular, because it enables you to just really soften and blend those adjustments in very carefully, so that things just look natural, but you get the effect that you want. So see so we just get nice control here. We're not darkening areas that were already dark. We're only darkening areas that were a little bit light. So I think that is a really, really nice benefit of this. And I have to say, adding the luminosity mask, I have to give credit where credit is due. There's a gentleman whose name escapes me now. I want to say his name is Alex something or other. Let me see if I can go find his name, because I think he deserves credit. I came up with using Dehaze for enhancing portraits during the beta test for Capture 121, and Alex had put out something about using that when Capture One was released in his blog, and when I noticed that he had put it out there, I did ask him if he wouldn't mind sharing some credit with me since I had launched the idea, and then he said gladly do that. And boy, I sure wish I could find his full name. I apologize. If you go to alexonraw.com, alexonraw.com, that's his blog. Alex deserves credit for adding the luminosity mask to this. It's a really great addition. I wish I had thought of that myself, but I have to say I can't fully take credit for that. I think he deserves that credit. But anyway, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, and you'll find this useful. Let me know what other topics you'd like to talk about. Put comments to it down there in the comments to the live stream here on YouTube. Click the subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel. You'll get notices when there's new live streams coming. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe buy me a coffee, or if you're a new user to Capture One and you want to buy Capture One, use my affiliate link. I would really be grateful. Other than those little pass-through commissions, I don't get anything for doing these videos. So other than just sharing with people why I really enjoy Capture One and why it's the editor that I use for all my raw files. So thanks again. It looks like my camera went out on me again. That's so bizarre. I really do need to figure that out. Let me see if I can go back to me only here and see what happens. So again, I really appreciate you guys coming. I know there's only a handful of people here. Hey, that's the way we all start, right? You just kind of start from nothing. But I do want to give my friend Rob, you can see him there in the chat. He's Rob Trek. I really appreciate your help, Rob. I'm so grateful. Make sure you check out Rob's channel. He has live streams multiple times a week. He's got a really brilliant live stream where he edits viewer photos. You submit your photos, and he gives himself a timer for each photo, and you see what he can do with your photo in 4 minutes. And then he also provides you a photo where you can edit his photo, and then he walks through the submissions, and you really get a lot of interesting feedback seeing what other people did with his picture, because he walks through all the different viewer edits of his own picture. So it's really clever. Thanks again so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here. This will be available for replay. So if you missed some of it, don't worry. It's going to be out there. And I know there are a few people that weren't able to be here who were really interested in seeing this in action and seeing how I did this. Hopefully you'll watch the replay and this will all make sense. Leave comments. Find me on Facebook, Walter Rowe, ROWE. I'm in most of the Capture One groups. I'm an admin for a number of them. Feel free to hit me up there too with suggestions for other topics. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks for joining.